Hi, this is Christopher Moja from the Fan Film Podcast. This is episode 55, and that's going to be September 5th, 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, for his second part interview on the Fan Film Podcast, James Crowley.
Right. So the Buck Rogers project. I mean, how did this come about? Where what direction do you want to take it? Is it to go like the Gil Gerard Buck, or are we going to talk about old school?
Well, Jeff actually said that Gil's involved somehow.
Gil is in the show. He's going to be a series regular, and
that's awesome.
He's an executive producer with me, and I'm very thrilled. You rarely get a chance to meet any of your childhood heroes, and I've met a bunch of them. And Gil is just what a great man. I mean, really so down to earth and so fun. He's made this a wonderful experience so far. We've just been lamenting that. We really tried to talk to CBS and to Paramount and say, look, you guys should really license the fan films in some capacity, like you do the novels. Just charge $1 a download. I mean, God, I've had 30 million downloads on Star Trek.
Yeah,
and it's expensive to produce. People don't get it, but each episode that we make is 100 to 140K, and wow, it's just an amazing. Money just evaporates, and. So we're just trying to think of how we could, do something long-term that, maybe would be successful, that we could earn a living at and not do other jobs. And, we just started talking about different things, and I mentioned Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, and a dear buddy of mine said, don't touch Flash Gordon. Sci-Fi Channel just killed it.
Yeah, they sure did.
Oh, yes, they did.
So we had a big laugh over that. I said, well, I like Buck Rogers better anyway. And I asked him, this guy's a genius with finding things. So I asked him to find out who owned the property and how we could get in touch with them, and he did. So, we called the rights holders, and he's a younger, hipper guy, and he gets new media and loved the idea of doing an internet show. And so we got the rights. It was just literally that easy. And so we've been in the pre-production stages for quite a while. And I'm for detail, as you know, and one of the things that I wanted to do was to make Buck Rogers younger and a little more hip and connect him with that audience, And I don't know about you guys, but I loved Smallville.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I am the world's me and Chris
no, you're
are
not.
The most gigantic fanboys of Smallville ever.
Yeah.
Well, I just for a second, when the show premiered, I thought this is going to be garbage, and I've loved it from the get-go.
Too.
And then this past year, Sammy Witwer came on the show to play Doomsday. And what you guys don't know is that Sam Witwer was the voice of the Guardian of Forever from my second episode.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my God. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Time has resumed its shape. All is as it was before. Many such journeys are possible. Let me be your gateway.
That's cool.
What?
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice little trivia.
That's weird. That's
so
awesome.
when you watch In Harm's
random.
Way, you'll know that that's Doomsday's voice.
That is awesome.
So anyway, he's mutual friends with a Jim Van Over out in Hollywood who worked on Star Trek, and so I met Sam Witwer before Sam was a big actor. So it's just kind of cool to see his name on this show this year.
I just officially fanboy just now.
It's amazing.
Are you smoking a cigarette right now, Will?
Yes, I'm smoking a carton, baby. I'm not messing around with you.
So anyway, I wanted to bring a little bit, and some people cringed when I said it, but I said I want to bring that WB element to Buck Rogers. but I want it to be more real than that. And I said, I want Buck to be, 20 years old. And that was my off-the-cuff comment. And then we started researching it, and I about fell over. I was given the collected works of Buck Rogers, which was all the newspaper strips that were, collected.
Like the pulps and everything.
Yeah, they were all collected and published.
I love those Golden Age pulps and stories. They're great.
The preface of the book was called Buck Rogers, an Autobiography, and it was written by Phil Nolan, who created the character. But it was supposed to be Buck Rogers, who he was in his own words, as if the character was speaking to you. And literally, I almost dropped the book. When I read the opening paragraph, it said I was just 20 years old when I was mustered out of the air service in the First World War, and I about fell over. I thought, oh my God, this is what they originally intended. So it was just an instant connection. So I've done this elaborate script with two people. It starts in World War I. So we have all this great, air battles with Buck.
I'm glad you're going for the vintage,
very much so. Very much.
That's great.
And so, we have these beautiful moments where we flash back to his home life, as he's facing death. And I don't make any bones about it. I mean, in the pilot, Gil Gerard is Buck's dad.
Oh, that's great.
And so we're very excited, but there'll be a twist down the road, and you'll.
That's very Smallville of you to have Gil Gerard in the first episode there.
Yeah, Gil Gerard and Aaron Gray are his parents in the pilot.
Oh, awesome! Yep, I love Aaron. Oh, I love Aaron.
Really,
I really love Aaron.
It's a geek fest, man. We're blowing up heads right now. You don't understand. If this was live right now, there'd be headless Americans by the millions.
Well, I guarantee you that anybody that loved the original, Buck Rogers comic strip is going to like this. The only thing that we've changed and eliminated is like Hans and the Mongol hordes, because it's just
right.
You don't want Twitty in there? Come on, man.
You know what? Tweaky was actually created for the Glenn Larson series, but you have a robot that's very Tweaky-ish, but very cool. He's not stupid Tweaky like you're used to.
He's Tweaky-esque.
But you know what I mean. You have to have robots in that kind of classic science fiction, and but we went the extra distance. We've got a lot of influences from George Lucas's early work that I like in some of the design elements. It's very Metropolis in its look.
Oh, very cool.
I
saw that film. It was in the city, like rescreened, and they cleaned it up, and they showed it at this little independent theater in the city, and I was just like. I was amazed. I think it was 2002, and I was just like, "Holy shit!" How long ago did they make this movie? It was incredible. It was an incredible piece of science fiction, and
we're all very excited.
Yeah,
we start shooting Buck Rogers in about 3 weeks, and
very cool.
We're shooting in a turn-of-the-century home that's been completely preserved for Buck's family home, and
cool.
All these cool people are coming, and we have a 1918 vintage baseball team coming play a game, and it's just going to be this really cool thing. And the other little bit of exclusive stuff that I can tell you is that we cast Daniel Logan, who played Boba Fett in one of Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. We got the inside scoop, Chris.
Yeah. Daniel is going to play. He would have been called Killer Kane. He will be the polar opposite of Buck. He's the bad guy, and he has a sadistic father, much in the vein of Lionel Luthor. So you'll have the two Kanes.
Very awesome.
Trying to destroy
No Tiger Man?
No Tiger Man.
Come on, man. You got to have Tiger Man in there.
I don't need Tiger Man when I have Aaron Gray, guys.
We need more Tiger Man.
I saw her in San Diego 5-6 years ago, and she's still hot.
Her daughter.
We need Tiger Man like we need cowbell.
What's that?
Her daughter Samantha is a beautiful young actress, and we're actually reading her for Wilma. So.
Stay with that. She's spoken for, right?
History may repeat itself.
I see. Actually, in your films, you actually have people that have worked on to kind of get into another side series that's current. People from Galactica that have actually done special effects work for your films.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you get a hold of those people?
Well, one of my oldest and he has to be my best friend in the show business world is Doug Drexler, and Doug worked on Star Trek from Next Generation right on through. He's a diehard, dyed-in-the-wool original series fan. We met by accident. I was invited by a friend back out to Paramount when they were shooting the Troubles with Tribbles crossover for Deep Space Nine.
Right.
And I went out to look at the costumes and stuff, and my friend said, "My God, you're such an original series fan that you have to meet Doug Drexler." And so she introduced me to Doug, and we hit it right off, and we've been friends all these years. And Doug was the guy that said, "Look, if you ever make your own Star Trek, I'll do your special effects." And he meant it. He meant every word. And most people don't realize the first 2 episodes, Come What May and In Harm's Way, he did every effect shot on his own. He would work on Star Trek for Paramount all day, then he would go home at night, and he would do my show until the wee hours of the morning and go to work. He's just incredible. Well, Doug, when Enterprise was canceled, he was hired by Ronnie Moore and went over to Galactica and won 3 Emmys on that show.
Just out of curiosity, what do you think about Enterprise? I'm actually a fan of it. I didn't think I'd be at first. And I started watching it, and I was like, oh, this seems like the beginning of a space program that's going to progress. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes on. And I'm thinking, in the current, they're wearing, like, basically flight suits.
Yeah.
And, what looks like a flight suit, an adorned flight suit. And then it turns into, they're talking about the 60s, 68 or whatever, and they're wearing these, the tight, form-fitting shirts with the pants and the boots. And it actually kind of, in my world, I don't know if I'm crazy, but in my world, it kind of makes sense. It starts off with the flight suit.
A lot of people didn't like it. It has elements about it that I didn't like. There was some
I'm sure, me too.
Creatively within the scripts that I didn't like, but I really supported it. I had a lot of friends working on it. I think it makes sense. Everything looked very NASA-ish and very contemporary.
Yes, extremely.
Because I look at the original series and it's so mod and so
exactly.
We have nothing that looks like that. We don't have
not at all
multicolored, multifunction buttons and all this.
Unless you do the next movie with a beagle on your lap, and then it'll be
no beagle.
That'll be and you have like a hot Vulcan chick, and you'll be all good.
No, I always believed to this day that if the 4th season of Enterprise had been its first, it would still be on the air.
Yeah.
But
I turned it off after the second episode, or not the second episode, the second season. It wasn't.
Remember I talked to you about that, Chris? Like the last couple seasons were awesome, and
I really watched the 4th season. It has a lot of ties
I've never
to the
seen
original series, and
because I'm an original series purist like you are, Mr. Cawley. So it's it's kind of like
you suck up.
It's hard. It's hard. If I respect him, man, I'm going to call him Mister. Give me a break.
The 4th season is terrific. It really is, and you can take nothing away from it. It was very brilliantly done, and that was Manny Coto.
Yeah, I'll have to check him out sometime.
Props. It was a good season.
So there'd be no
Star
Trek crossover. Go ahead.
You offered like props and stuff for that series, right?
When they did the mirror episodes of that, we gave them our helm scope and the bridge buttons we did for them, and I made Archer's red tunic for that. We had a ball. We just had so many friends working on it, and they were so, when they were doing something original series, they were just like so intense, and they shared our enthusiasm. And it was just like all these fans coming together to make it a reality. It was really cool.
I mean, you get down to the nitty-gritty. You even got like this Sulu scope going. It's crazy. It's completely perfect. How long did it take you to construct the entire bridge, like total?
Well, we did it. We did it in stages, and I guess about 3 years total. But then over the last few years, we've actually replaced major sections of it. I mean, the new episodes that are coming out, I think the fans are going to be really floored because all of the little blinky panels around the bridge have been completely replaced with LCD screens. So
very cool.
We can call up animations when we want. All the big screens around the bridge are now 37-inch LCD.
That kind of like answers my question. I was watching some, I watch pretty much every day, and I was watching the original series today, and it was like. They had that one, all the little windows. One of it's a comet. The other one is like a constellation. Was that meant to be a picture, or was that supposed to be a window?
They are supposed to be data screens, and they would change.
Oh, okay.
I think what you were basically looking at, if there was nothing moving on them, you have to think of it this way: they were like glorified screensavers.
Exactly. That's what I thought. I'm like, that can't be, because Roddenberry wouldn't do that. I mean,
the original idea was that he was going to have a slide projector behind each one, and then they could constantly change the displays.
Right.
This is the truth. But then they found out in 1964, if you had a slide projector behind each one of those, union rules said you had to have a separate projectionist for each one. So budget-wise, they couldn't afford it. So Roddenberry said, let's just put up some back things that look cool, and that's what happened. But they're meant to be these different display screens all the way around the bridge.
Speaking of Roddenberry, his son, have you actually have contact with him on a regular basis, or has he contributed at all to your film? I
speak to him a couple times a year, or we see each other in different places. Right. But he actually flew to New York when we shot In Harm's Way.
Oh, very cool.
And he consulted on the script. He was on the set every day. He was like a worker like the rest of us. He was moving flats and set pieces and lights. And
that's great.
He was one of the guys. He was buying beer for the crew. He was just...
That's my kind of guy right there.
Buying beer. Part of all the beer.
very surreal to be on the. I'll never forget the building we were in. You could stand in the transporter room and look across, and we had a big bay window that looked out. We were on the second story, and you could look out over the main street. And we were on a break. We could look out, and here was Rod Roddenberry crossing the street from a market, pushing a cart full of beer and Chinese food from the restaurant. He took it upon himself to feed everybody. He's just a wonderful guy. And he has a great sense of his father, and he has a great sense of what his father was trying to do with Star Trek.
Have you met Trevor Roth at all?
I love Trevor. He's a great guy.
I got the pleasure of interviewing him at last year's New York Comic Con, this year's New York Comic Con in the city, and I asked him up. I mean, you can go back and look at our old episodes. It was a great interview, and I was asking him a lot about the new film. What did he think? What do you think Rod would have thought? And what does Gene think about it? And his son, and he had a lot to say. It's very interesting.
Those guys have done a hell of a job reinventing the Roddenberry business, and I give them all the props in the world. I love those guys. They're just great people.
It maintains the spirit. It takes it in a different direction, but it has that, it has the Roddenberry feel to it. That's the most important part of it.
It sure does. I was, so taken aback on the sets of the new feature. I was in a strange place.
What's funny? Before we started the show, I've seen a bunch of interviews. I'm a stalker or everything, but yes, I am.
We background check. We do our homework, baby.
I scoured the internet like a stalker, and on the Vimeo. Is like the YouTube, ghetto YouTube, Vimeo? So I went to Vimeo, and I saw you talking about, you were walking on a set in Paramount, and it just happened to be filming the new Star Trek film, and you were kind of like, I'm with a friend, and we're just doing a business thing. Hey, there's the shoot going on over there for the new Star Trek. Let's go check it out.
Well, what happened was that I was flying to L.A. Just basically to be with friends. And of course, when you're on the plane, you have to shut your phone off. And I landed, and immediately the first thing, like everybody else on the plane, is I turned my cell phone on, and it beeped, and I had like 12 messages, and they were all from Mark Zickery, who wrote and directed World Enough in Time for me. And he said, this guy from Paramount's trying to get in touch with you. He wants to talk to you about possibly, putting the episode on DVD as a bonus or something. And so I was kind of, whoa, kind of thing. So I called the guy, and he said, can you come over to the studio tomorrow and meet with me? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I've been trying to get this to happen for years. So we went over, two friends with me, and one was a former stunt woman on Voyager, and
cool.
We went on the lot, and of course we got there early. You don't want to be late for a meeting in the Hollywood traffic, so we got on the lot, and we're shooting the breeze, waiting, and we decided, well, let's walk around and revisit old times, kind of thing. And I looked at her and I said, they're shooting the new film. And she said, yeah, I know. And I said, I hear the security is really horrendous over there. And she said, let's go find out. And she meant it. Let's go. And I thought, oh, Christ, we're going to go to jail.
I'm going to strap some dynamite to my chest and run in. Well, let's see if somebody stops us.
The cool thing about being on a studio lot is if you have permission to be there and you're just behaving yourself, they generally don't bother you.
That's cool.
We literally, walked a path that we always walked before, and on the right hand, and walked down what they used to call Star Trek Row. The Deep Space Nine was on one side of the street, and Next Gen was on the other.
Oh, that's awesome.
8 and 9, and when we walked by the entrance to 8 and 9, the hand of fate must have been there, because J.J. Abrams was breaking, and he came out, and he kind of looked at me, and I looked at him like I knew who he was, and I was convinced he had no clue who I was, so there was this funny kind of moment. And as we passed, one of my friends said, oh, my God, that's Abrams. Say something. And I was like, no, keep going.
Open your mouth. Come on.
I don't want to get in trouble. Let's just keep going. We really shouldn't be over here. And as I finally turned, he turned and he said, James Cawley. And I stopped. I thought,
no shit.
God.
He said your name. That's the ultimate.
He knew who I was. And I was pretty floored by that.
Were you in your Elvis costume?
No, I was pretty close.
That's probably how you recognized.
Are you the king?
First of all, my hair hadn't been dyed, so it was sandy blonde.
Yeah.
And I was shocked he knew who I was. And he called me over and he said, what are you doing here? And I thought, oh shit, we're in trouble. And I told him, and he's like, well, that's cool. He said, good luck. And he said, when you're done with your meeting, why don't you come back and be my guest on the set? I thought, wow, the security's so ridiculous. They're actually going to let a fan in here. And we came back and went in the room, and he was doing something up on the set. And we could see that he was on what looked like a bridge, but we really couldn't see into it, from the position we came into the room. And it was a few minutes, and he came down, and he was this excitable, really energetic guy, this really fun guy. And he said, come on, and he insisted that we come up on the bridge.
Wow.
And I absolutely loved the uniforms when I saw them when I walked in.
You know why that film worked? Because he's a fanboy like we are.
And he was like very exuberant. He was almost like bouncing up and down on his heels. And he was like,
look what I did.
Yeah, he was like, what do you think of the bridge? And I must have looked like I'd been kicked in the nuts. Because then he stopped and he's like, you don't like the bridge. He's like, you don't like the bridge. And I said, oh, God, JJ. I said, don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful set. It is absolutely spectacular, but it's not the Enterprise.
Yeah.
It's not my Enterprise.
I'm a stickler. You're not going to mess with me.
I said, it's not my Enterprise. But God, guys, just standing on it, what a technological thing. It was just so beautiful. You can't take away from it. But I just didn't feel like the Enterprise for me. That doesn't mean it wasn't for, millions of others.
Would you say it's the Star Trek for you? Or would you say it's for, quote-unquote, the next generation
It is
of
definitely. I feel, let's clean the slate because a lot of people haven't even heard me say this. I honestly think it was a good movie. It wasn't my Star Trek movie.
I thought the same way.
I think that he did what needed to be done. I think he redid it for the next 40 years.
Right.
Because my age group isn't going to be around forever, and
You're a dinosaur.
Well, I think Star Trek needs to connect to the youth.
Right.
Kennedy got the space program to connect to the youth at the time, which is why I think Star Trek took off to begin with.
Yes, very true.
I think you need again, and I think he very successfully did that. I think that the cast, I met them all. I think they are the greatest young human actors in Hollywood I've ever seen. This great people, absolutely wonderful people.
Are you a big Heroes fan at all?
I had never seen the show.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I had never seen the show, but...
dude, you got to get to the store, get yourself some DVDs.
Well, imagine how I felt when I met Zachary Quinto.
Yeah.
He said, I saw your Sulu episode. It was great.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, they all had watched it, except for Simon Pegg and Carl Urban, who begged me to give them DVDs, because they heard so much about it. And they were just... Carl Urban, for me, was the star of that film. He just... Didn't he nail DeForest Kelley more than McCoy?
You know what? I was raving after the movie. I went with like 4 or 5 of my friends, and after the movie was over, I was going bones, bones, bones. That's all I was talking about.
No, that's what you always talk about is bones,
I also thought it was odd, and I said this on the set when I watched him, because I said, he's really impersonating DeForest, and the rest of them are doing something totally different.
Exactly.
So I didn't know how that was going to play, but he really, I think he was the one element that really grounded it and made it feel to some degree like the Star Trek I knew. And I
totally agree with you.
The one part of the movie that I can't fault, and I actually cried, was when Leonard appeared and said, I have been and always shall be your friend.
That's awesome.
Oh, of course. Look at that. It gives goosebumps. I had goosebumps.
That was just brilliant. And but I really, as much as I think there was plot issues that you could drive a starship through, but every fan is going to, we're all going to tear these things apart and deconstruct them.
I still haven't seen the damn movie.
Are you kidding me?
No, not yet.
Well,
dude, what the hell?
I think he did what needed to be done, and I'm grateful that he decided to take it on, because you know what? Star Trek was dead until he did it, and that's just and we're talking about a guy who understood the important parts of it and understood what he had to do, and I felt so humbled to be around him, and so I don't know. He made me feel like I was a rock star on that set. He actually asked my opinion. He didn't have to do that. He told everybody in there, he said, this is the guy that saved Star Trek. He said, he's the one that's kept it alive.
Wow, that's great.
I got news for you, man. He called me first. He said, where's that Fanboy Will guy? You got to get his opinion over here.
You should have gone, let me tell you, because as far as I'm concerned, nobody should talk trash about J.J. Abrams. He's just a really wonderful guy.
Oh, let me see. He did Alias, my favorite show, Lost. Yeah, he sucks.
There you go.
I'll tell you, that crew that he had working for him, that crew he had working for him, they would take a bullet for the guy.
Yeah.
He just treated everybody like they were so on the same level playing field as him. Amazing. Just an amazing thing to watch.
That's awesome, man. I don't hear a lot of... You're doing a pretty picture of Hollywood there, and there's a lot of people that don't talk a pretty picture of Hollywood. But
yeah, you know
but
what?
That's cool.
Hollywood's
I can see that.
Not a pretty picture, but when you meet somebody like Abrams, you kind of get it. That
kind of changes.
There are good people.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I have no doubt.
It's just amazing to watch somebody here we're talking about this guy who's got to be one of the hottest people in that town right now. And he has no air of that at all. You know, it's so bizarre to see somebody that...
He just happens to be an awesome director.
Yeah, he's a guy with his jeans and his baseball cap and his sneakers, and he's talking stuff just like everybody else, you know, and you get it. You know, you can just picture him home, grabbing the kids and going to McDonald's and then going...
You forget that they're humans, you know?
Yeah, he had some leniency as far as what he could do, that maybe the studio wasn't on his ass as much as, you know...
That guy deserves every bit of success in the world that he's got and more, because he treats people so good. He's just...
I love that. I love, you know, like, I go up to comic book writers and artists at conventions, and they're pricks. And I'm like, you know what? In high school, I'm an illustrator and a graphic artist by profession, so I was like, if I was a big-time comic book guy and I made it to the big leagues, Marvel and DC, and a little 10-year-old kid came up to me shaking, saying, Mr. McKenzie, can you please sign this? I would be the nicest guy. Yeah. I would be so grateful. I'd be like, sure, son. You know, I'd give him a free sketch.
Perspective, you know, man. You can't lose it. You don't forget where you came from. And
you know, I just can't picture being a jerk. But I've dealt with a lot of jerks, and I'm sure Chris has.
Yep, you. No, I'm...
You know, I'm the king of the a-holes, and I'm speaking to you right now. I'm a-hole number one. But anyway...
I just think it's a testament to JJ's character, even that he would reach out to a virtual fan, a nobody fan, so to speak, that he doesn't know, and open the setup. And I wasn't the only one he did it to. I mean, he had other fans on there, celebrities that even visited that were fans. But I just think he's just such a warm, inviting guy that when you meet him, it's like, what do you want me to do? How, you know, where and how much?
Yeah, man, that's the way it should be.
He's just a great guy.
It should be.
Star Trek's in good hands. Whether we like the direction, whether it's different, you know, the guy has a sense of it. He has a sense of why, you know, it should continue and what's important about it. And I think, you know, even the speed bumps that they had to overcome to even get this one made and get a story out there, you know, who knows what they'll come up with for the next one. And you know, I'm one of these guys, too, that understands, and I think you guys can agree with me on this, you can have multiple versions of the same thing, and one is not going to take away from the other. There's different versions of Batman. Some are good, some are bad.
No, of course.
Some like one more than another. It should be the same with Star Trek. You know, his movie didn't take anything away from the original series. I mean, if anything, it got people to go out and buy the DVDs again.
Right.
You know?
And they're coming out any day now, as far as I know. They're going to be coming out soon. So
yeah, I mean, they can all coexist. Mm-hmm. I still love Adam West, for God's sake. So.
Oh, you know what? I'm excited because I'm a New Yorker, and the next Big Apple Comic-Con is coming up, and Adam West just got announced, and John Schneider's going to do this all again. My fanboy head is it's ready to explode right now.
You're a New Yorker, and you haven't been up to where I film?
Willie D.
Hey, now. Can we be red? Can we be red shirts?
Where are you?
I just want to get zapped right now. I just want to get obliterated by some sort of alien civilization.
Where are you? What part of the state?
You go first.
I'm in Rochester, New York. So anytime I can get zapped by a phaser.
Right, so you're about 4.5 hours.
Yeah, not too bad.
I am extreme far. I'm light years away. I'm in Long Island.
You're about 5 hours from me, so you're not
yes. But you know what? If you're going to include us in this riffraff, I'm going.
Well, listen, I will give you an open invitation. We start shooting October 3rd, and we shoot for 7 days on this shoot. If you want to come, the door's open.
Awesome. If you've got a part where I can dye, you know, a red shirt, I'm there, dude.
As a matter of fact,
I'll kill myself with a phaser, you know, whatever it takes. Suicide by phaser.
Are shooting a location shoot where we beam down and get ambushed, so there are people that die.
Awesome. Send me information.
You gotta love the red shirts, man. Back in the day, 60s, the original series, they didn't realize shirts.
Google 4242 Main Street, Port Henry, New York, and that's where we are.
Very cool. Is this the car garage like transferred version, or is this the?
No, this is a huge cavernous old.
No, they're on location.
Garage that we film.
I was going to say that set is so impressive. I was like, how can they fit that in a garage?
Yeah,
like,
it's not set. It's sets plural. There's the bridge, sick bay, transporter room, briefing room. It's all in one building.
Now, if we come, can we bring like a little video camera and do it?
We'll let
You're pushing it.
We'll let you do your own little video pod. You
cool.
guys can run around and do it.
Well, we'll have to talk about that later there, Will.
You're more than welcome.
That's awesome, man.
Well, Jimmy, how much time do you have this evening? Do you have the next 3 hours open? No. Do you have a little more time?
Yeah.
Because I want to get into the Gods of Men.
Oh, well, let's get into Gods and Men. That
a little
was
bit.
An experience.
How did that come about?
Well, as I live and breathe.
Nyota, Captain Uhura. Welcome aboard. So how do you like our little ship?
Well, I must say, Commander Kirk, it's beyond amazing.
I agree. It's the perfect tribute to all who served the border, especially Captain Kirk.
Thank you so much. Your presence here today really honors us.
This almost makes me feel like a kid again.
Well, it should. The last time you sat in that seat, you were a kid.
Captain Chekhov, as our special guest, if you wouldn't mind.
I mean, I obviously use your sets, and Tim Russ was a big instrumental part of doing that. And it's also, according to Tim Russ, it's not a fan film, but in my book,
it's a fan film. Mutual friend of Walter Koenig's and myself, Sky Conway or Doug Conway, has always, like me, harbored the dream to make his own Star Trek film. And he has another friend who actually was fairly wealthy, and they wanted to take it to the nth degree, and they only wanted to have established Star Trek actors, and they had the money and the means to do that, and they were looking around for sets and so forth, and Walter suggested they call me, and I hit it off with them, very nice fellas, and said, hey, come on, you use the sets, and we'll help you make some costumes if you don't have them, and we'll have some fun together. So we basically just opened up the house and let them all come in, and it was a trying experience because it was the worst heat wave we'd had in probably 15 years.
Oh, boy.
There were days that it was 120 degrees with the humidity. And these guys were troopers, man. They just slugged through it. The script, I have issues with the script, major issues with the script, but it was a fun experience. Met a lot of wonderful people. Tim Russ was dynamite. Michelle Nichols, man, let me tell you, when she walks in the room, you have royalty around.
Yeah, I did have the opportunity to meet her. She's a great lady.
Chris has met Sulu and everybody. Chris is down with the crown.
J.G. Hertzler, tremendous fella. Gary Graham was here.
How surreal is that? You have George Takei in front of you. How surreal is that?
I'll tell you, the most surreal moment for me came when we were shooting To Serve All Days with Walter Koenig, because he'd been on the set for about a week, yet he hadn't appeared on the bridge in costume or anything. And he was in this old age makeup, and he came out, and the whole crew, the production crew was on the bridge for the shoot, and he came out to do his scene, and he came out of the turbo lift, and he stepped down and walked around to sit at his old seat. And when he sat down, it was subliminal for him, but everybody was watching for it. And when he sat down, he crossed his legs underneath the console. Everybody in the room, you hear them suck in their breath. It was just
the goosebumps were everywhere.
It was just crazy. But then for me, the strangest part was when he stood up and he said, "Permission to report to my quarters."
That's awesome. Yep.
And you feel like just saying, "Do we have to ask motherfucker to get on there?"
It was just amazing here.
Get on it.
Yeah. And then I guess equally, when George came on and he called me Captain Kirk, I literally said, okay, we have to stop for a minute. So,
give me a minute. I'm not going to cry. I promise myself.
It was just very bizarre, because here I'm looking at somebody that I've admired for 40 years on television, and
and all of a sudden in front of you, it's
and
so surreal.
Me Kirk.
You're the captain. You're Kirk.
Yeah. The only other thing I could compare it to was one of the very first Elvis shows that I did, and I had Elvis's backup singers with Jordan Ayers with me. Very bizarre, to be in that circumstance, pretending to be somebody with people who were with that person. So it's strange.
That's crazy. Yeah,
a lot of fun.
And then kind of, excuse me, let Tim Russ kind of run with it. I guess they kind of endorsed it, didn't they?
Well, not to my knowledge. No, they didn't endorse it more than they've endorsed, what we do. They turn a blind eye to it, basically. Their attitude is, as long as you're not selling anything, you're not really hurting.
That's the mass opinion, yeah.
We've spoken to them at length, and there's so many people that work inside the company that love what we're doing. They just think it's a great thing, and it's a way for them to embrace the fans for once and not turn them away. For a while, Paramount had some people that just didn't get it. And,
DC, Marvel. Yeah. The
fan
films in general.
They would go to conventions and shut these down for stupid things, And now they kind of get it. As long as there's no harm coming from things and people are having a good time, it does nothing but prop up their franchise, and they get that.
Absolutely.
I mean, it goes back to the early 60s. I have films on DVD that are from the 60s in black and white that Trekkies have made over the years, and it's like they've never been acknowledged, and it's like they were the beginning of the whole kind of like trend. Like,
absolutely.
Let's make our own costumes. Let's go into our dad's basement and convert it into the Enterprise bridge. Like all that stuff. Like these kids did it a long time ago, and
I never
they're
wanted
really
to
not.
do it. I never wanted to do it unless you could look at it and go, how the fuck did he do that?
Well, you know what? Yeah, because you get like the cardboard flaps hanging open, and you can see like this side up, and you're like, what the fuck is that? You know?
I wanted people to look at it. I knew that we were 30-some years past the original series, and I knew that every other fan like me knew that ship intimately. They knew every detail.
That's the thing. You gotta please those people. That's not easy.
Yeah, I know.
They know everything.
It has to be the eyes, and it has to feel right, or I'm not doing this. And I wanted people to go, how did they make that? How did they get it so close? And once I knew that I could do it, it was just like, okay, now let's just push it to the next step. That's
what makes your movie so incredible, because it's like I'm watching an extension. Star Trek ends, and I'm watching your films, and I'm like, no, it didn't end. It's still going.
Yeah, every episode we try
a new episode's made as we speak. So
when we shot this past June, we I think we're the first fan film to ever shoot with a Red 1. So. We're very excited. I mean, the look of it was amazing. We went out on location and we shot at 18th Century Fort, and then CGI extended that into a Klingon city. So we're having a ball. We're having a ball with it.
I mean, I was saying to Chris earlier, I mean, your fan film basically is the perfect example of what somebody could do, a fan who says, you know what? I can do this. I have the love for it. I have the budget for it. I have costumes. I have actors. Let's do this. And you get together and you film it and you do it. And the result is just, quite honestly, I mean, I've seen Superman. I've seen Batman 10 million times. So has Chris. We've both seen Star Wars 80 bajillion times. Mm-hmm. Star Trek fan films 12 trillion times. Came across yours, and I said, you know what? This guy gets props because not only is he doing my favorite version of the original series, but he's doing it to the T. I mean, the exact thing. So precise.
My complaint with most of the Hollywood producers is that they don't get it. They're not true to the source material.
How can you not?
They just don't get it. And but as far as Star Trek goes, they never did get it. They never understood why it worked and why people loved it the way they did.
Gene threw it out there, and he was just like, here it is.
When Star Trek: The Motion Picture came out, all we ever wanted was the original series on the big screen. We didn't want him to change the uniforms or the ship.
What are those funky gray uniforms they were wearing? What was that?
And we never got that. So my goal was to give it back.
Another example of Hollywood fucking things up. They do it constantly in the superhero field. Don't get me started.
Yeah, well, Batman with nipples or
Thank God that's gone. That is just wiped out.
I don't even like what he's wearing in the new movie.
You don't like the new armor?
I honestly don't like it. I want to see him in the, or at least if it's going to be armor, can we at least please have it the right colors for Christ's sake?
I do too, man. Make it gray.
Kind of like the Sandy Colorado kind of dead end kind of deal.
In black all the time, where he blends into the background, and I'm squinting to see what the hell he's doing.
You've seen Dead End, obviously, right?
Yes, I love it.
I mean that is Batman.
Here's another.
If they could do that in Hollywood, come on.
You want another geekgasm here?
Of course.
The guy that played the Predator in that.
That is it's Koenig's son.
No, he played the Joker. The guy that played the Predator in that, the Predator alien in that, is Kurt Carley, who plays Captain Pike in my show.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I just watched that episode this afternoon.
We're all connected in some which way or other. You'll find that out.
That's weird. It's like the small little circle.
It is. It really is.
Now, you guys, you went through Dave School. How'd you hook up with those guys?
Well, again, Doug Drexler was doing my special effects, and he was overwhelmed with work on Galactica. And he said, hey, you should call my friend Ron Thornton, who was like the god of CGI, basically invented the field. Ron was an instructor at the Dave School, big Star Trek fan, knew of my project. He flew up here and met with us and said, I got all these kids that are working for me. Let's make this a school project. And that was it. They took over on it, and they've done 2 episodes for us now. Beautiful, beautiful work. And these kids have gone on to do great things in Hollywood, these classes. They had one kid who stayed an extra semester just so he could work on one.
That's awesome. Yeah.
shows you the level of Star Trek still, the cachet that it has.
They look great, because I was watching the In Harm's Way this afternoon, and then I went to, what was the other one there? To Serve All Days. And then
I have a problem looking at the pilot and then in harm's way, and because I see it from a different perspective than you guys do. There were creative decisions that were made by committee, that I would have done differently if it hadn't been my sole decision, and some of that spilled over into To Serve All My Days, because I want everything to be exactly like it was, with just a little bit of a tweak as far as the effects goes. I want to be state of the art, but I want it to feel like the 60s.
Right.
And there were, some decisions that were made about some different things over the course of making them that sometimes I look at it and go, God, I wish we'd done that different. But, when you've got people volunteering and busting their ass and doing all these cool things for you, you tend to say, you're doing the work, you do it the way you want to do it. And it's that, because that's what they get out of it. That's their pay. But sometimes you look at things and go, God, I wish I'd done this differently. But
I could really see the distinction between the two episodes as far as the special effects, the writing, and stuff. So there's really, and even up to the newer episodes, I mean, you're definitely raising the bar, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And it's a learning curve, because we've been making it up as we go. We're learning as we go, and we're just getting better, I guess. We're learning and doing it right.
Yeah.
I hope to think we are, anyway.
I think you are.
So my plate is very full. I'm finishing up a Star Trek in October, and I'm doing Buck Rogers at the same time, and it's nuts.
So we'll thank Mr. James Carley.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. You guys have been a lot of fun.
Thank you, sir. It's
right back at you.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great.
You guys,
keep making those amazing movies, man. It's good stuff.
Well, you clear your schedules, and you've got my email. Make some time and come up and have some fun with us.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Awesome.
All right,
Sounds
guys.
great. All right, man.
Take care, bro.
Thank you.